Hello, my dear one. I am so glad you are here with me today. And I want you to know that the very fact you are listening to these words tells me something important about you already. A part of you is ready to be free. And when I say free, I do not mean free from people or situations or challenges. I mean free inside yourself. So let us begin very gently, just the way I always like to begin, by softening our shoulders, loosening our breath, and remembering this simple truth that I have shared for many, many years. Nothing outside of you has the power to disturb you unless you give it that power. I know that sounds almost too simple, and sometimes simplicity is what the mind resists the most. But I want you to stay with me here. The world is not attacking you. Life is not punishing you. People are not controlling you. What actually happens is that a situation appears, a word is spoken, an event unfolds, and then your mind interprets it. And that interpretation, that story you tell yourself in a split second, is what creates disturbance or peace. A thought is just a thought, and a thought can be changed. When you truly take this in, something loosens inside you. You realize you are not at the mercy of the world. You are participating in how you experience it. And that, my dear, is where your freedom begins. So many of us were taught to live in reaction mode. Something happens and we immediately react. Someone speaks and we immediately defend, explain, justify, or attack. We think this is natural, but it is actually learned. And anything learned can be unlearned. Reacting is automatic, choosing is conscious. When you react, you give away your energy. When you choose, you keep it. This is why I often say that calm is not weakness, calm is mastery. Calm means you are present enough to decide how you want to feel, rather than letting old patterns decide for you. And yes, this takes practice. We are not aiming for perfection here. We are aiming for awareness. Awareness is already healing. The moment you notice, oh, I am reacting, you have already stepped out of the reaction just a little bit. That little space is where choice lives. And in that space, you can say to yourself, I choose peace right now, even if the situation has not changed yet. Now let us talk about something that is often misunderstood, what I call conscious indifference. I want to be very clear here, because this is where people sometimes confuse love with self-sacrifice. Conscious indifference does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you close your heart. It does not mean you become cold or distant. Conscious indifference means you care without collapsing. It means you observe without absorbing. It means you allow others to be who they are without letting their emotions run your nervous system. There is a very big difference between indifference and numbness. Numbness is fear pretending to be strength. Conscious indifference is strength rooted in love. When you practice this, you are not saying, you don't matter. You are saying, my peace matters too. And that is a very loving statement. When you stop reacting to everything, you conserve enormous amounts of energy. That energy then becomes available for healing, creativity, joy, and clarity. Energy spent on reaction is energy taken away from your life force. I want you to notice how often your body tightens when you feel triggered. The jaw clenches, the shoulders lift, the stomach contracts. This is the body preparing for defense. But what if, just for a moment, you did not defend? What if you paused instead? This is where the practice becomes very practical. Before you respond to anything that feels upsetting, take 3 seconds. Just 3. Breathe. Feel your feet. Let the first wave pass. A delayed response is often a wiser response. People who are emotionally strong are not the ones who speak the fastest. They are the ones who listen the deepest. They are not controlled by urgency. They are guided by clarity. When you allow yourself that pause, you give your higher wisdom a chance to speak. And your higher wisdom never shouts, it whispers. That is why slowing down is such a powerful act of self-love. This brings us to another truth I want you to really feel in your heart. No one can take your peace unless you hand it to them. Many people walk around unknowingly carrying emotional keys for others. One comment, one look, one tone of voice, and suddenly their entire inner state changes. When this happens, it is not because the other person is powerful, it is because you have given them access. Emotional detachment, in the way I teach it, means you gently take your keys back. It means you say, I hear you, but I do not abandon myself. It means you recognize that other people's moods, opinions, and behaviors belong to them. You are not required to carry them. You are not required to fix them. You are not required to suffer in order to prove you care. Love does not require self-betrayal. When you truly understand this, relationships change. You become calmer. You listen better. You respond more truthfully. And interestingly enough, people often begin to treat you with more respect because you are no longer available for emotional chaos. I know that some of you listening right now may be thinking, but Louise, what if the situation really is upsetting? And I want to say this very gently. Acknowledging your feelings is not the same as being ruled by them. You can notice anger without exploding. You can feel sadness without drowning in it. You can recognize fear without letting it run your life. Feelings are visitors, not dictators. They come to bring information, not commands. When you learn to sit with a feeling instead of reacting to it, something beautiful happens. The feeling softens, it moves, it passes. Most emotions do not want to stay. They want to be felt and released. It is resistance that makes them linger. When you stop fighting what you feel, you stop being controlled by it. This is emotional freedom. And here is something else I want you to remember, especially on days when it feels harder to stay centered. You do not have to practice this perfectly for it to work. You only have to practice it consistently. There will be moments when you react, when you forget, when you get caught. That does not mean you failed. It means you are human. Be kind to yourself in the learning. Self-criticism is just another reaction pattern. Instead, you might say, oh, I see what happened there. I'm learning. And that kindness toward yourself keeps your heart open. An open heart is not a fragile heart. It is a resilient one. So let us bring this all together now, very gently, very lovingly. Acting as if nothing affects you does not mean nothing matters. It means you choose what matters. It means you place your attention where it nourishes you. It means you stop giving your precious life energy to every passing disturbance. You become the calm center of your own world. And from that center, you can respond to life with wisdom, compassion, and clarity. When you live this way, you are not withdrawn from life. You are deeply engaged with it, but without fear. And that, my dear one, is true freedom. As you go forward today, I invite you to carry this simple reminder with you. I choose my response. I keep my peace. I am free. Have you ever noticed how quickly you turn a single result into a verdict about who you are? My dear one, I want to begin right there, because so many sensitive, loving people carry an unnecessary burden. They believe that a mistake means something is wrong with them, that a setback means they are failing at life, that an unexpected outcome is proof they are not good enough. And I want you to hear this gently, the way a loving friend would say it to you over a quiet cup of tea. A result is not a judgment. It is information. Life is not punishing you. Life is communicating with you. When something doesn't work the way you expected, it is not saying you are wrong. It is saying, let's adjust. And when you stop personalizing every outcome, something inside you relaxes, because you realize you are allowed to learn as you go. I have said this for many years, and I will say it again, because repetition heals us. There are no mistakes, only learning experiences. When you label something as failure, you freeze. When you label it as feedback, you stay fluid. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall and fall and fall again. And never once do they sit on the floor and say, I guess I'm just not a walker. They adjust. They shift their balance. They try again. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that we are allowed that same kindness with ourselves. We began to treat every misstep as a moral flaw instead of a natural part of growth. When you free yourself from personalizing failure, you reclaim enormous inner freedom. You stop collapsing inward. You stop attacking yourself. You stop rehearsing shame in your mind. Instead, you begin to ask softer, wiser questions. What worked? What didn't? What is this teaching me? What would I like to try differently next time? And in that moment, your nervous system stays calm, your creativity stays online, and your heart stays open. This is emotional maturity. This is self-respect. This is inner safety. I want you to notice how often you turn results into identity. I failed becomes I am a failure. It didn't work becomes I don't work. And yet, none of that is true. You are far more than any single outcome. You are the one who observes the experience, not the experience itself. When you remember this, failure loses its sting. It becomes neutral. It becomes usable. It becomes data, guidance, information you can work with instead of something you must defend against. Now let me take you even deeper into a principle that may sound surprising at first, but has brought freedom to countless people. When you are willing to face what you fear, fear begins to dissolve. Most of us spend so much energy trying not to think about the worst-case scenario that it quietly runs our lives from the background. Fear thrives in avoidance. Fear grows stronger in the dark. But when you gently turn toward it and say, "All right, if this happened, what would I do next?" something remarkable occurs. The mind stops panicking and starts problem solving. This is not pessimism, my dear. This is empowerment. Fear loses its power the moment you stop running from it. When you allow yourself to imagine the thing you are afraid of and then calmly walk yourself through it, you discover something important. You are more capable than you thought. You have resources. You have intelligence. You have resilience. The unknown becomes known, and the monster under the bed shrinks in the light of awareness. I often invite people to try this very simple exercise. Ask yourself, gently and honestly, if what I am afraid of actually happened, what would I do next? Not to frighten yourself, but to ground yourself. You may find that your mind begins to offer solutions instead of catastrophes. You may realize that support would appear. You may see that you have handled difficult things before and survived them. And in that moment, fear loosens its grip, because fear feeds on the belief that you would not cope. When you see that you could cope, fear no longer has a job. There is great freedom in saying, "I could handle this," not because you want it to happen, but because you trust yourself enough to know you would respond. Trust in yourself calms the mind more effectively than trying to control the future. Control tightens, trust softens. Control exhausts, trust steadies. And when you trust yourself, life feels less threatening, even when it is uncertain. You see, panic says, "I must prevent this at all costs." Wisdom says, "Whatever comes, I will meet it." Panic collapses your awareness. Wisdom expands it. Panic rushes you into reaction. Wisdom invites you into presence. When you practice this way of thinking, your mind learns a new pattern. Instead of spiraling into "what if," it moves into "then what," and "then what" is always more manageable than "what if." I want to be very clear here, because this is important. Preparing your mind does not mean resigning yourself to suffering. It means refusing to give fear imaginary authority over your present moment. You are safe right now. You are breathing right now. You are here right now. And from this moment, you can respond intelligently to whatever life brings. That knowing alone can bring deep peace. As you integrate these ideas, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop seeing life as a series of threats and start seeing it as a series of invitations. Invitations to learn, invitations to refine, invitations to choose again. You become less reactive and more responsive, less rigid and more flexible, less frightened and more free. And that, my dear one, is what it means to live centered. So if today brings a result you did not want, pause and say, "This is information, not condemnation." If today brings a fear to the surface, pause and say, "I am willing to see that I can handle this." These are not just words. They are ways of training your mind to support you instead of sabotage you. And as you practice them, gently, patiently, without forcing, you will notice something profound. Your inner world becomes calmer, clearer, and far more spacious. Remember this as you move forward. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present. You are not here to avoid every uncomfortable feeling. You are here to learn how to meet them without losing yourself. When failure becomes feedback and fear becomes guidance, you step into a new kind of freedom, a freedom that does not depend on outcomes, a freedom that lives inside you. And that freedom, my dear, has been yours all along. I want to share something with you from my own heart, something I have lived, something I had to learn gently, imperfectly, and over time, because this lesson did not come to me all at once. And perhaps it did not come to you all at once either. For many years, I carried guilt like a quiet companion, not loud, not dramatic, but always there, whispering that I should have known better, done better, been better, loved better. And I discovered, slowly and honestly, that guilt never healed anything. It did not fix the past. It did not make me kinder. It did not make me wiser. It only kept me small, tense, and afraid to live fully in the present. Guilt does not correct behavior. It punishes being. And the moment I truly understood that, something inside me softened. And when I softened, healing finally had room to enter. You see, guilt is often disguised as responsibility, but they are not the same thing at all. Responsibility says, I see what happened, and I am willing to respond with awareness and care. Guilt says, I am bad, I am wrong, and I deserve to suffer. Responsibility is forward-moving. Guilt is paralyzing. Responsibility empowers you. Guilt drains you. When you confuse responsibility with self-punishment, you trap yourself in a loop where growth cannot happen. And I want you to hear this very clearly, because it is one of the most loving truths I know. You can learn from the past without beating yourself up for it. Learning is gentle. Healing is gentle. Life does not ask you to bleed in order to grow. Many of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that suffering somehow makes us better people, that if we hurt enough, regret enough, criticize ourselves enough, we will finally become worthy. But life does not work that way. The universe responds to kindness, not cruelty. And when that kindness is directed toward yourself, something very powerful shifts. You stop living in a courtroom where you are both the accused and the judge. You step out of the cycle of self-trials and into a space where change becomes possible. I often say, and I say it again now because repetition heals, you are here to learn, not to be punished. So let us gently replace one habit with another. Instead of saying, I shouldn't have done that, I am so stupid, try saying, I see what I did, and I choose to respond differently now. Feel the difference in your body when you say those two sentences. One tightens you, the other opens you. One keeps you trapped in yesterday, the other places you firmly in today. The present moment is where your power lives, not in replaying old scenes over and over again. You do not heal by reliving pain. You heal by bringing compassion to where you are now. And here is something else I want to say softly, because it matters. Self-forgiveness is not letting yourself get away with something. Self-forgiveness is letting yourself move forward. When you refuse to forgive yourself, you are not being moral. You are being stuck. Forgiveness is a release, not a verdict. It says, I am willing to stop hurting myself for what has already happened. And when you make that choice, you reclaim energy that has been locked away in shame and regret. That energy returns to you as clarity, creativity, and calm. Now let us talk about where you place yourself, because healing does not happen in isolation from your surroundings. We are not separate from our environments. We are influenced by them constantly, subtly, and deeply. You absorb the emotional climate you live in. If you spend your time around people who thrive on drama, criticism, and constant tension, your nervous system never truly rests. You may tell yourself you are strong enough to handle it, but strength does not mean endurance of harm. Strength means discernment. Strength means knowing when something is not nourishing to your spirit. I want you to consider this gently, without judgment. How do you feel after spending time with certain people? Do you feel expanded, calmer, more at ease with yourself? Or do you feel contracted, defensive, exhausted, and doubtful? Your body knows the answer before your mind does. Your body is always giving you feedback. And when you listen to it, you learn how to choose environments that support your well-being instead of eroding it. This is not selfish. This is self-respect. We learn how to think by being near other thinkers. We learn how to speak by being near other speakers. We learn how to treat ourselves by being near people who model certain behaviors. Who you are close to teaches you what is normal. If chaos is normal around you, peace may feel unfamiliar. If criticism is normal, kindness may feel strange. But unfamiliar does not mean wrong. It simply means new, and you are allowed to choose new patterns, new spaces, new rhythms that support the calm you are cultivating within. Sometimes this means limiting time with people who pull you back into old versions of yourself. This does not require anger or confrontation. It requires honesty and self-care. You can love someone and still choose not to sit in their emotional storms. You can wish someone well and still protect your own peace. Boundaries are acts of love, not rejection. They say, I value my inner harmony. And when you value your inner harmony, life begins to reflect that value back to you in surprising ways. I want you to remember that your goal is not to become unbothered by everything through force or denial. Your goal is to become so anchored within yourself that external noise no longer defines you. That anchoring happens through gentle self-forgiveness and conscious environment choices. One clears the past, the other protects the present. Together, they create a future that feels safer, lighter, and more spacious. You are not meant to live in constant emotional defense. You are meant to live in trust. So today, if you are willing, Make two simple inner commitments. The first is this: I choose to learn from my past without punishing myself. Say it slowly, let it land. The second is this: I choose environments that support my peace. Notice how those words feel in your body. There is no rush, there is no demand, only choice. And choice is where your freedom lives. As you practice these choices, gently, imperfectly, one day at a time, you may notice something beautiful happening. Your shoulders relax more easily, your reactions soften, your thoughts become kinder, your world begins to feel less hostile and more cooperative. This is not because the world suddenly changed. It is because you changed the way you relate to it. And that, my dear one, is real power. And once you begin to feel that quiet steadiness inside, something else becomes very important for your freedom. Something many people struggle with for most of their lives without even realizing it. You do not have to let other people's opinions define who you are. This may sound simple, but it is one of the most liberating understandings you will ever come to. Other people's words are not facts. They are not laws. They are not truths carved into stone. They are perspectives shaped by their own fears, beliefs, wounds, and expectations. When someone speaks about you, they are often revealing far more about themselves than about you. And when you take those opinions into your mind and replay them, question them, or argue with them silently, you give them a home inside you that they do not deserve. Many of us were raised to seek approval, to look outside ourselves for validation, to believe that being liked meant being safe. So when someone disapproves, criticizes, or misunderstands us, the old reflex appears. Something must be wrong with me. But that is only a habit of thought, and habits can be changed. You do not need consensus to live truthfully. You do not need permission to be yourself. You do not need to explain your soul to anyone who is committed to misunderstanding you. Not every comment requires a response. Not every opinion requires a place in your heart. Not every judgment deserves your energy. When you understand this, you begin to breathe differently. You stop tightening when someone disagrees. You stop shrinking when someone disapproves. You stop defending when there is nothing to defend. I want you to feel this deeply. Your worth is not up for debate. It does not increase when people praise you, and it does not diminish when they criticize you. When you no longer need agreement to feel secure, you become free. You can listen without absorbing. You can hear without internalizing. You can let words pass through you instead of lodging inside you. And when you say gently to yourself, "Not every word belongs in my mind," you are choosing peace over habit, truth over fear, self-trust over approval. This is not arrogance. This is emotional maturity. This is self-respect. This is love. And now, let us go even deeper, because freedom does not come only from what you think, but from how you respond emotionally in the moment. Emotional reactions are learned patterns. They are not fixed traits. You were not born overreacting. You were trained. And anything that has been trained can be retrained. When something happens, an emotion rises quickly: anger, fear, defensiveness, sadness, there is a small but powerful space before you act. Most people rush past this space without noticing it, but this space is where your freedom lives. You do not have to suppress your feelings, and you do not have to obey them either. You can acknowledge them, name them, breathe with them, and then choose how you respond. The first step is awareness. You notice the sensation. You feel it in your body: tight chest, warm face, shallow breath. You do not judge it. You do not dramatize it. You simply say, "This is anger," or "This is fear," or "This is hurt." Naming a feeling brings you back into the present moment. The second step is breath. A slow, conscious breath tells your nervous system that you are safe. It interrupts the automatic reaction. And only then, after awareness and breath, do you choose your response. Response is power. Reaction is habit. When you slow down this process, you stop being carried away by emotion and you begin to guide it instead. Something beautiful happens when you practice this. You realize that emotions move like waves. They rise, peak, and fall. They are not permanent states. They do not define you. They pass. And when you stop fighting them or being ruled by them, they lose their intensity much faster. You become centered instead of reactive, calm instead of defensive, present instead of overwhelmed. This does not mean life stops challenging you. It means challenges no longer own you. You remain with yourself, and that is the greatest safety you can ever have. I want to leave you with this gentle reminder to carry into your day. You are not required to attend every emotional invitation. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to say inwardly, "I am here, I am safe, and I decide how I respond." The more you practice this, the freer you become. Not because the world changes overnight, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. And when you stand in that quiet inner authority, nothing has the power to pull you out of your center unless you hand it the key. I believe that life is always working for us, even when it doesn't look like it. My dear ones, I want to begin right here, right now, with this gentle reminder, because so many of you have been taught to believe the opposite. You have been taught that when life becomes noisy, demanding, chaotic, or challenging, something has gone wrong. And yet, when I look back over my own life, I see that the moments that shaped me most were not the quiet ones, but the moments that invited me to become stronger inside, clearer inside, more anchored inside. Today I want to speak to you about what it truly means to stay calm, centered, and free. Not because nothing happens around you, but because something profound has shifted within you. When you are rooted in purpose, the noise does not disappear, but it loses its power to pull you apart. There is a great difference between being distracted and being directed. When you do not know why you are here, everything demands your attention. Every opinion matters. Every comment stings. Every delay feels personal. But when you begin to sense your purpose, not as a grand title or achievement, but as a quiet inner knowing of who you are becoming, something settles inside you. You stop chasing approval. You stop reacting to every sound. You begin to ask a different kind of question, one that gently guides you back to yourself. Does this serve the person I am choosing to become? And if the answer is no, you feel less compelled to engage, to argue, to defend, or to prove. This is not avoidance. This is maturity. This is inner leadership. Purpose acts like an anchor. When the waves rise, the anchor does not stop the storm, but it prevents the ship from drifting into danger. In the same way, when your life has meaning to you, when your actions are aligned with your values, you are less likely to be shaken by gossip, criticism, or pressure. You may still feel emotions because you are human, but you are no longer ruled by them. You notice them, you breathe with them, and you allow them to pass. A feeling is just a feeling. A thought is just a thought, and neither has the authority to define you unless you give it that power. Many people live as if the purpose of life is to avoid discomfort, but that belief keeps them small. Purpose is not about comfort, it is about direction. When you know where you are going inwardly, you can tolerate uncertainty outwardly. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "How can this shape me?" This subtle shift changes everything. Suddenly, challenges are no longer interruptions. They become invitations. They invite you to clarify your boundaries, strengthen your voice, deepen your compassion, and refine your choices. Purpose does not remove obstacles. It transforms how you meet them. I want to speak now about a beautiful image that has helped many people understand this truth on a deeper level. The image of the eagle. Most birds, when a storm approaches, try to escape it. They hide. They fight against the wind. They exhaust themselves trying to outrun what cannot be avoided. But the eagle does something very different. The eagle turns toward the storm. It spreads its wings and uses the very winds that frighten other birds to lift itself higher. The storm does not weaken the eagle, it strengthens it. The storm does not trap the eagle, it carries it upward. My dear, you are far more like the eagle than you realize. When difficulties arise, you have a choice. You can resist, complain, collapse, and ask life to be different. Or you can breathe, steady yourself, and ask, how can this lift me? The wind that feels harsh at first may be developing your strength, your clarity, your resilience. What feels like pressure may be training you to trust yourself more deeply. Nothing comes to you to punish you. Everything comes to awaken you. This does not mean you must pretend to enjoy pain. It means you stop making pain mean that you are failing. So many people suffer not because of what happens, but because of what they tell themselves about what happens. They say, "This shouldn't be happening," or "This means I'm not good enough," or "This proves I can't trust life." And those thoughts tighten the body, constrict the breath, and drain the spirit. But when you change the interpretation, the experience changes too. You begin to say, "This is uncomfortable, and I am still safe." Or, "This is challenging, and I am still capable." Or, "This is not what I planned, and something good can still emerge." That is how you reclaim your power. When you focus on your purpose, you become less interested in noise. Noise is anything that pulls you away from your center, constant opinions, endless comparisons, unnecessary drama, the pressure to respond immediately to everything. Purpose gives you permission to pause. It reminds you that not everything deserves your energy. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. You do not have to answer every demand. You do not have to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. And here is something very important I want you to hear. Purpose is not something you find once and never revisit. It is something you choose again and again, moment by moment. Each time you decide to act from love instead of fear. Each time you choose honesty over approval. Each time you listen to your inner guidance instead of external pressure. Purpose lives in those small, quiet decisions. It lives in how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. It lives in how you treat your body, your time, your energy. And when you live this way, peace becomes more natural, even when life is busy. The eagle does not flap frantically during the storm. It trusts the wind. And learning to trust life in this way is a practice. It does not happen overnight. You may forget and remember again. You may react and then pause later. Be gentle with yourself. Growth is not about perfection. It is about awareness. Each time you notice that you are reacting instead of responding, you have already taken a step forward. Each time you ask yourself a conscious question, you are guiding your energy back to center. So today, I invite you to see your challenges differently, not as signs that you are off track, but as evidence that you are being strengthened, not as proof that you are powerless, but as opportunities to practice trust, not as storms to fear, but as winds that can lift you higher if you allow them to. You are not here to be tossed around by life. You are here to grow, to expand, to remember who you are. And when you align with your purpose, the noise fades into the background and your inner calm becomes your home. Remember this, my dear. You were not created to shrink in the face of difficulty. You were created to rise. Let me share something with you, very personally, very honestly, because this lesson did not come to me all at once. It came slowly, through years of exhaustion, of trying to prove myself, of feeling that I had to respond to everything and everyone in order to survive. There was a time in my life when I believed that if I didn't defend myself, I would disappear. I thought that if I didn't correct people, explain myself, justify my choices, or fight back, I would somehow lose my value. And what I learned, gently but firmly, is this. Not every battle is yours to fight, and not every fight leads to freedom. Some battles only drain you. Some arguments only keep you trapped. Some victories cost you your peace. And peace, my dear one, is far too precious to sacrifice for the illusion of being right. You see, the first question I learned to ask myself was not, am I right? But is this worth my energy? That question alone changed my life, because there are many situations where you can be right and still feel depleted, tense, resentful, and restless afterward. And there are moments when you choose not to engage. not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Wisdom knows when to step back. Wisdom knows that silence can be an answer. Wisdom understands that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. When you stop fighting unnecessary battles, you reclaim enormous amounts of life force. That energy comes back to you as clarity, as creativity, as calm. Another question that helped me tremendously was this: will this actually change anything? Because so often we argue with people who are not listening, defend ourselves to those who have already decided, or try to convince someone who is committed to misunderstanding us. And I want you to hear this very clearly. You do not have to convince anyone of your worth. Your life will speak for you far more powerfully than any explanation ever could. When you understand this, you stop pushing, you stop straining, you stop tightening inside, and something beautiful happens. You begin to feel free. Freedom does not come from winning. Freedom comes from choosing peace over performance. There is a deep liberation in realizing that you do not need to be victorious to be whole. You do not need to dominate to be safe. You do not need to prove to be loved. When you let go of the need to win, you win something far greater: inner ease. And inner ease allows your nervous system to relax, your body to soften, and your mind to become clearer. From that place, your responses, when you do choose to respond, are calmer, more precise, and far more effective. Now I want to gently take you a little deeper, because this lesson is closely connected to another misunderstanding that causes so much suffering: the belief that happiness depends on conditions outside of you. Many people live their entire lives postponing happiness. They say, when I get the job, I'll be happy. When I find the partner, I'll be happy. When I have more money, more time, more security, more recognition, then I'll finally relax. And my dear, that way of living is exhausting, because anything that depends on external conditions is unstable. Conditions change, people change, circumstances shift. And if your happiness is built on what you cannot control, your inner state will always feel fragile. I want to say this as clearly and as lovingly as I can. Happiness is not a reward for having the right circumstances. Happiness is a relationship you cultivate with yourself. When happiness is postponed, life feels like a waiting room. When happiness is chosen, life becomes a place you can inhabit fully, right now. This does not mean you stop wanting growth or improvement. It means you stop withholding joy until everything is perfect. And perfection, as you know, is a moving target that never truly arrives. The truth is, happiness that depends on having is unstable, but happiness that comes from being is resilient. When your happiness is rooted in gratitude, in self-acceptance, in inner kindness, it can coexist with uncertainty. You may still have challenges, you may still have goals, you may still experience loss or disappointment, but those experiences no longer erase your sense of well-being. They move through you rather than defining you. This is emotional freedom. One of the most profound shifts happens when you stop saying, "I will be happy when," and begin saying, "I allow myself to feel content now." Contentment does not mean resignation. It means appreciation. It means acknowledging what is working, even as you continue to grow. It means recognizing that your worth is not postponed. It is present, right here, right now. And when you accept yourself as you are, something very interesting happens. You actually become more capable of positive change. Self-acceptance is not stagnation. It is the soil in which healthy transformation grows. Many people fear that if they accept themselves, they will stop improving. But the opposite is true. When you criticize yourself, you tighten. When you accept yourself, you open. And only what is open can evolve. Acceptance says, this is where I am, and I am safe. From safety, growth becomes natural instead of forced. From safety, happiness becomes accessible instead of conditional. I also want you to notice how much lighter life feels when you stop comparing your timeline to someone else's. Comparison is another battle that never leads to peace. There will always be someone who has more, appears happier, seems further along, and there will always be someone who is struggling more than you. Comparison keeps you trapped in external measurement. Appreciation brings you back to your own path. Your life is not late. Your life is not behind. Your life is unfolding in its own perfect rhythm. When you honor that rhythm, tension dissolves. Let me ask you something gently now. How many times have you sacrificed your happiness in order to be right, to be approved of, or to meet someone else's expectations? How often have you abandoned your own peace to manage other people's emotions? This is not a judgment. It is an invitation to awareness. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. When you become aware, you can choose differently, and choice is where your power lives. Happiness rooted in gratitude is quiet, steady, and nourishing. It does not need applause. It does not demand perfection. It grows when you notice what is already supporting you, a moment of ease, a breath that feels full, a small kindness, a sense of being alive in your body. These are not small things. They are the building blocks of genuine well-being. When you train your attention this way, your inner climate changes. And when your inner climate changes, your outer experience responds. I want you to remember this. You do not have to earn the right to feel peaceful. Peace is not a prize for getting everything right. Peace is a choice to stop punishing yourself. Happiness does not require permission from the world. It begins with permission from you. When you stop fighting unnecessary battles and stop postponing joy, you discover that calm was never missing. It was simply waiting for you to choose it. So today, I invite you to ask yourself two simple questions. First, is this battle worth my peace? And second, what if I allowed myself to be happy now, without conditions? Sit with those questions. Let them work on you gently. You may be surprised by how much lighter your life begins to feel when you answer them honestly. And remember, my dear one, you are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to choose joy, and you are allowed to do so without explaining yourself to anyone. I want to share something with you from my own heart, something that took me many years to truly understand and live. not just intellectually, but emotionally and spiritually. For a long time in my life, I believed that peace would come after things settled down, after people behaved differently, after I proved myself worthy, strong, or right. And yet, the deeper truth revealed itself gently over time. Peace is not a reward you receive when the world cooperates. Peace is a choice you practice regardless of what the world is doing. This understanding became the doorway to what I now call true inner freedom. When you stop allowing the outside world to dictate your inner state, something profound happens. You begin to realize that much of your suffering did not come from events themselves, but from the meaning you assign to them. A comment, a delay, a disappointment, an opinion, none of these have power on their own. They only gain power when you hand it to them. And most of us were taught, very early on, to give that power away without realizing it. We learn to measure ourselves by approval, by outcomes, by reactions. But the moment you begin to question that habit, the moment you pause and say, "Do I really want to let this disturb my peace?" you reclaim something precious. Over and over again in our journey together, we have returned to one gentle but radical truth. A thought is just a thought, and you can choose again. This is not denial. This is not repression. This is discernment. You begin to see that not every thought deserves your belief. Not every emotion requires immediate action, and not every situation calls for your involvement. When you learn this, you conserve your energy, and energy, my dear, is life itself. When you stop leaking it into unnecessary battles, arguments, and self-judgment, you have more vitality available for joy, creativity, and healing. We talked about the freedom that comes when you stop personalizing everything. Failure becomes feedback instead of a verdict on your worth. Mistakes become guidance instead of shame. You learn to say, "Something didn't work, and I am still okay." That sentence alone can change a life. When you no longer identify yourself with outcomes, you become flexible, resilient, and calm. You adjust instead of collapse. You learn instead of punish yourself. And slowly, very slowly, you step out of the cycle of self-attack that keeps so many people trapped. We also explored the paradoxical power of facing your fears instead of running from them. When you gently ask yourself, "If the thing I fear happened, what would I do next?" your mind shifts out of panic and into problem solving. Fear loses its grip because fear thrives on the unknown. The moment you bring light into it, it begins to dissolve. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to stay present with yourself while fear passes through. And fear always passes when it is not fed. One of the most liberating lessons we touched on was releasing guilt. Guilt does not heal the past. Guilt does not make you better. Guilt simply keeps you anchored to pain. Responsibility, on the other hand, is empowering. Responsibility says, "I can learn. I can repair. I can choose differently now." There is a world of difference between taking responsibility and punishing yourself. And when you understand that difference, you step out of the prison of self-blame. You realize that you are allowed to grow without suffering as payment. We spoke about environments, about how important it is to choose where and with whom you spend your energy. This is not selfish. This is wisdom. When you surround yourself with constant negativity, criticism, and drama, your nervous system never rests. Peace cannot flourish in chaos. Choosing your environment is choosing your frequency. And sometimes love means stepping back, not to reject others, but to protect your own healing. You are not required to stay in spaces that drain you in order to prove that you are kind. Another great freedom comes when you stop letting other people's opinions define you. An opinion is not truth. It is a projection shaped by someone else's experiences, fears, and beliefs. When you no longer need agreement to trust yourself, you become internally stable. You listen, you discern, and you choose what resonates. Not every voice deserves a seat in your mind. This realization alone quiets so much inner noise. We practiced learning how to master emotional reactions, not by suppressing feelings, but by acknowledging them with compassion. You notice the emotion, you name it, you breathe, and then you choose your response. This small pause is where freedom lives. Between stimulus and response, you reclaim your power. And the more you practice this, the less reactive you become. You are no longer swept away. You remain present. We returned again and again to purpose, not as a job title or achievement, but as an inner compass. When you know the kind of person you are choosing to become, distractions lose their hold. You begin to ask, does this serve my growth? Does this align with my values? Purpose anchors you. It gives you perspective. It allows you to endure uncertainty without losing yourself. And like the eagle rising on the storm winds, you learn to use challenge as lift rather than resistance. We learn that not every battle deserves your energy. Some arguments do not need your response. Some conflicts resolve themselves when you withdraw your attention. You do not need to win in order to be at peace. Peace comes from knowing when to engage and when to let go. This discernment is a sign of deep inner maturity. And finally, we addressed one of the greatest myths of all, that happiness depends on external conditions. When happiness is postponed until something changes, it remains unstable and fragile. But when happiness grows from gratitude and self-acceptance, it becomes steady. You learn to appreciate life as it is, while still allowing it to improve. You do not wait for life to be perfect in order to feel good about yourself. You choose contentment now, and from that place, life unfolds more gently. So when I gather all of these teachings together, when I look at the thread that runs through them, I see this simple, powerful truth. Inner freedom begins the moment you stop giving the outside world authority over your inner state. This does not mean you become indifferent or closed. It means you become centered. You feel deeply, but you are not ruled by feeling. You care, but you do not collapse. You engage, but you do not lose yourself. And this is why I want to leave you with this gentle reminder, one that you can carry with you, return to, and repeat whenever you need it. You are allowed to be calm in a noisy world. You are allowed to be steady in uncertain times. You are allowed to choose peace without apology. The world does not need to change for you to be free. Your freedom begins inside you. So let us affirm this together, slowly, kindly, and with trust. I am at peace with myself. Nothing outside of me has the power to take away my inner freedom.